Former Attorney General Eric Holder, he is the chairman of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee and co-author of Our Unfinished March, The Violent Past and Imperiled Future of the Vote, A History, a Crisis, a Plan.
General, that book is aptly titled, The March Continues, for sure. And, you know, I'm looking at this moment and would love to get your assessment at the ground level, because my attitude is right now, to be honest, Democrats, the more the merrier. I'd be breaking out across blue states around the country saying, you know what, let's take a look at this midterm redistricting strategy that Republicans want to do and see how it works in our states, see how we can match them. So in many respects, the Democrats, I think, are in a very good position, like the state of California, to call their bluff. You want to do this? You want to break the rules? You want to break those eggs? Fine. We'll help you break them. It's not outside the bounds, in my estimation. This is the question to you, or is it, for the response to be equal in measure?
Yeah, this is an existential crisis for our democracy. And I think Democrats have to respond in the way that many of the governors are proposing. The Republicans are essentially trying to cheat, to try to protect themselves from losing the House in 2026. And this isn't a Republican versus Democrat thing. This is a moment of moral clarity. This is a question of right or wrong. And in order to save our democracy, I think we're going to have to do these kinds of steps that these Democratic governors are putting forth. And here's one thing I'd point out. You know, Donald Trump called a Secretary of State in Georgia back in 2020 and said, you know, I need find me 11, 12,000 votes, whatever it is. And to their credit, those Republican state officials said no. Well, he made a similar call to the folks, the Republicans in Texas, and said, find me 5 House seats in the House of Representatives. And you know what they said? No problem. We'll do it. And that's what they're doing. And that is what must be responded to.
A Texas state rep made that exact point today in Albany, New York, that you just made, A.G. Holder. I want to play for you and our audience some sound of some other Texas lawmakers who are speaking out about the tack that they're taking, and they're saying that they're fighting. Take a listen.
We're marching. We ain't fleeing. We're fighting, and we are so incredibly thankful that the governor has hosted us, because we need allies.
The people of Texas know, they've seen this playbook before, and they want fair maps.
I am representing. I am not abandoning my duties. I am doing my job. And Democrats have been shut out of the process over and over and over again, and Democratic voices have a right to be represented.
You know, at the National, for folks who don't know, at the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, you all have literally been fighting gerrymandering, working to undo a lot of the work that was done with the Red Map Project in 2010. Now, understandably so, you're saying, look, Democrats have to use all tools at their disposal because this is such an anti-democratic threat. What should the strategy be? Because fighting fire with fire is a short-term strategy. These Texas state lawmakers, they're not there now, but someday they're going to go back to the state. Maybe it won't get done in the special session. Maybe Governor Abbott will do it when the House and the state legislators are actually back in session later this fall. What should the mechanism be? Because America's policy is made in the state legislatures, as you know, and there are thousands of seats up in 26 and 27 where I frankly think Democrats should be putting their energy so that they can win some seats and control some chambers.
Yeah, I mean, gerrymandering is a problem not only with regard to how the House of Representatives is constituted, but also how state legislatures are constituted as well. And we've been fighting gerrymandering in the state legislatures, as well as trying to make sure that we have a fair House of Representatives. You know, I think that what Democrats need to do in this moment is to be responsible. You have to be responsive to what the Republicans are doing in Texas and potentially in other states as well. But I also think we need to put in place measures that would be temporary, because nobody wins if everybody starts to gerrymander. Gerrymandering has been with us almost since the beginning of the Republic, and it is something that takes power away from the people. It allows politicians to pick their voters instead of citizens choosing who their representatives are. And it has a real negative impact on our democracy. As a result of gerrymandering, people are not concerned about a general election. They're only concerned about a primary. It drives people further and further to the right and means that if you reach across the aisle to work with your Democratic colleagues, that's seen as a sign of weakness and invites a primary challenge. So this is something that I unfortunately have to say, I support. It's inconsistent with the work that I've been doing to try to do away with gerrymandering. But in this moment, this is the right thing to do, but only, as I hope, as a temporary measure, because nobody wins if everybody starts to gerrymander.
You have Texans weighing in on what is happening in their states, the way in which they believe this could impact them. Take a listen to what they said recently at a public hearing.
It is a map back to a Jim Crow past where we had white-only primaries, voting tests, and poll taxes. We may not be there yet, but this map shows the way.
Everything that will happen to America and to Americans will be on your hands. I feel certain that many of you know that this is wrong.
This is a call for those who govern as you do to do so with moral courage, especially when the vulnerable are at risk of being silenced.
General Holder, do you believe these maps that have been proposed violate the Federal Voting Rights Act?
Oh, they certainly do. I mean, we were already challenging the maps that were in place after the redistricting that was done in 2011 and in 2020. So yeah, there's no question that these maps are violative of the Voting Rights Act. They dilute the power of people of color in Texas, Hispanics and African Americans. If you look at the reason that Texas got 3 additional seats after the census, it was because of the influx of Latinos into Texas. 90% of the population growth in Texas was as a result of that influx of people of color. And yet, what did the legislature do in the suit that we've already brought? They created 2 majority white districts. Now, if you create another 5, if you do gerrymandering and fool around with 5 more districts, you're just going to exacerbate that which we are already challenging, and I think make the lawsuit that we have even stronger.
It's interesting to watch the Republicans respond to this across the aisle, if you will, in terms of what they'd be saying if the shoe were on the other foot. The shoe was on the other foot, and we like to play that game because the response. Well, they'd be losing their mind if a Republican governor proposed doing what they're doing.
A Democratic governor.
A Democratic governor proposed doing what they're doing. But there is some other aspect of this that I think is equally disturbing and problematic, and that is the governor himself presuming that he can just by virtue of his position and the power he thinks he holds under the Constitution to grab back these individuals, these rogue lawmakers, as he refers to them. He notes in a post on X, "I support the immediate arrest of these rogue lawmakers who fled their duties. These radical Democrats are spitting in the face of every Texan they swore to represent. This is cowardice and dereliction of duty, and they should face the full force of the law without apology." What I find interesting are 2 things, Attorney General Holder. One is Republicans that I've spoken to are nervous about this play politically. There is not a good upside here in the end, particularly if Democrats follow through on threats to do the same. And 2, the idea that the Democrats are spitting in the face of every Texan they swore to represent, I would contend that's exactly what Republicans in the state of Texas have been doing for quite some time, especially on the voting rights front, as they have stripped away the ability of Texans, regardless of color, just Texans. The fact that I live in your state, I am somehow limited or hampered in my ability to fully exercise the franchise.
I mean, Texas is probably the hardest place to vote. There are a whole range of restrictions that are put in place to keep certain people away from the polls. And when I say certain people, that has a negative impact on people just generally. It is among the most gerrymandered states in the country as well. Democracy is not healthy in Texas. That is just a fact. And you see what happens when one party controls all the levers of government. You see what has happened in Texas, where they put in place measures that are not supported by the majority of the people there, everything from reproductive rights to health care, a whole range of things that they have done inconsistent with the desires of the people of the state. But because of gerrymandering, because of voter suppression, there is no political consequence. So if anybody's spitting in the face of the citizens of Texas, it is the people behind this gerrymandering. It is Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., the people in the White House, it is Greg Abbott, and the people in the Texas state legislature. They're spitting in the face of the people they're supposed to serve.
A.G. Holder, I mean, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that Texas lawmakers, Democrats, their only recourse to protect the voters in their state, the people in these districts that will be disenfranchised by these maps, is to just flee. I mean, I feel like what Vice President Harris said just last week about she feels as though the system is broken. This is just yet another example. And what is the recourse here? Because I think Donald Trump is trying to steal the election. Just like you said, last time he said, well, find me 11,780 votes, please, Secretary of State in Georgia. And they were like, no. This time he's like, hey, Greg Abbott need 5 seats, not trying to have a Democratic House. And Greg Abbott's like, sure. This is brazen. And I don't feel like enough people are like hair on fire about it. If I had hair, it'd be on fire.
This is not. Yeah, well, I'm getting a little sparse up here myself. This is not a Texas problem. Yeah, the focus of this issue is Texas, but this is a national problem. And you got to understand, if somehow, some way, Republicans are able to hold on to the House in next year, and in spite of the fact that I think they should lose because of the big budget bill that took health care away from millions of people, that gave tax breaks to billionaires who didn't need it. If they were somehow able to hold on to the House in 2026, that is the House of Representatives that would have to certify who won the presidential election come 2028, 2029. Now, if you want to play with fire, and that's what we're doing here, you put in a bunch of partisan hacks who are not supposed to be in the House, who are there because of gerrymandering and a whole range of other things that Republicans are doing, and then put at risk the possibility that that body would not certify who the next president was. That's why this is a national problem. This is not something only the Texans ought to be concerned about.